Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. Whether this is your first time here or you're an avid listener, we're thrilled to have you a part of our community. Our goal is to share successful stories of entrepreneurs and investors in the hopes that these stories inspire you along your journey towards financial freedom. We discuss successes, failures, systems, motivations, experiences, and key lessons learned over time. After each episode, you should feel motivated, empowered, and prepared to take action in your own life. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice. You can also find us on Instagram at WeeklyJuicePod, where we post daily content, personal finance tips, and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Welcome back to the Weekly Juice Podcast. As always, it is your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another special episode for you. Today we had on Lekha Devtha. She's a real estate developer, broker, house flipper, and podcast host. She's originally from India and moved to the United States in her early 20s. She's now located in Seattle, Washington, and she is an absolute killer in the real estate investing game.
Yeah. And like somebody that just has like such a spirit that you want. She's an infectious personality that you really, really just want to be around. You'll hear our interview, and she brings this kind of this light to the real estate investing game. And it's kind of like an against all odds type thing, because she mentioned in the episode that it's like, not only is she a woman, but she's a woman of color, and doing what she does is it's even more so impressive because she just has this infectious personality that just shines through, and she's extremely, extremely successful. And you'll hear all about her story.
That's part of her why. She likes motivating people that she believes otherwise would maybe not feel like they have an opportunity or a voice. And it's just, we have a couple episodes like this, but just one that just really touches you. And the word infectious is in like personality, just everything shines through. She just genuinely was a breath of fresh air, and we were having a blast talking real estate, laughing through the whole episode. But she has seen so much success. Briefly, we're going to give you a little highlight on 2 separate deals. She made over 7 figures and barely even talked about that. She was just all excited about the process and overcoming obstacles. Yeah, incredible person. And I think this is going to be all y'all's one of your favorite episodes. I can't say that enough.
Yep. 100%. She makes it look easy. It's not easy, but she does make it look that way. And I think that maybe if that bleeds into other people and they get a little bit of that spirit, maybe it's a bit easier for you to end up making money in the way that you want to one day. So I don't even want to have us talk anymore. I think we should just bring her in.
Let's bring her in. Lekha, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you on here. It's going to be an exciting show, so thank you.
Thank you for having me, both Corey and Ryan, because I follow your account on Instagram and I just take away so much from it. Everything from the content you put out to just even how you format your content is so inspiring to me. So thank you for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here.
Wow, that means a lot. Thank you coming from you. Thank you so much. It means more than you know. So we are thrilled to have you on here and dive into your story and share it for our listeners. So awesome. With that, if you could just give us a little brief background on yourself. We already went into who you are, but where are you from, how you got into real estate, and then maybe what you did before real estate and into the transition.
For sure. So I was born and raised in India, and I moved to the US in 2006. I had a pretty rich career in fashion merchandising back in India. And so when I moved to the US and moved to Seattle, lucky for me, Nordstrom Corporate was headquartered here. And so it was a very easy choice. There was one fashion retailer in the whole city. I was like, okay, I'm going to go work for them. And so that's kind of what happened. And I was at Nordstrom for a good 7 or so years. And I honestly loved my job. So like, why I switched careers in the middle of my life, I don't know. But I just knew that there was like more of a calling than anything else, because here I was, I had an awesome, like most kick-ass team. I got to dress up to work every day. I got to go play with numbers, which is what I loved. And then just like have a really cool job in fashion merchandising. And I gave it all up to go discover real estate and what it could do for me and my life and my family. And I have to say that I've enjoyed every second of it.
Leica, what was it about real estate that sparked your interest? Because there's maybe not as much of a difference as you think, because you were talking about numbers, but from the outside perspective looking in, it sounds like there's a big difference between fashion merchandising and real estate investing. What was it about real estate that caught your eye, and how did it even catch your eye?
I think it was financial freedom, and more importantly, time freedom. I didn't know about real estate to even start off. I thought a woman could be in real estate as a real estate broker. That's how limited my scope and knowledge was. But then once I started to realize that I could be developing stuff, I could be investing in really cool property, I think that's what got me really excited about real estate. And then to have it be so that I could kind of manage this on my own time, just, based on the amount of capital that I had, I was like, wow, this is such a malleable, cool industry to be in, because I could do as much work or as little work as I wanted. Those were my attractions towards this industry.
Yeah. How did you, working at fashion merchandising? I don't know a lot about the industry, but I know that there's long hours. Like, you're working a lot, and especially in that world. How did you balance while you were first getting started in real estate with doing both? It sounds like a difficult task. I'm curious what you did to manage that, and how far you were able to get before you were able to leave your full-time job.
Yeah. So I actually heard about a real estate flipping company, one of those gurus that were coming to town on my way to work one day. And I said, okay, let me go check them out. So on my lunch break, I was like, okay, let me go see this, listen to this presentation. I was hooked. And then I went to their 3-day program, and then I joined their mastery program. And once I joined the mastery program, that's when I started to really educate myself, because I had all the tools to educate myself. And so I started learning about different types of real estate and what to do first, second, and third. What was my calling? Would it be a rental property portfolio? Would it be fix and flip? Would it be apartments? What is it that excited me? So once I started to dig into all that, I was like, okay, it's time to start a company. And so I basically started a company, and then I did not watch TV for 6 months because I had a full-time job, and then I would go home and I would go study real estate. And so it took me a good 3 months to actually quit my W-2, but luckily I was able to quit it right away because I realized that everyone that I wanted to network with within real estate worked the same hours that I did at my corporate job. And so I was like, there's no catching them after work. So if I wanted to take this up seriously, then I would have to give up my corporate job. And I completely sever ties and then push forward. And that's kind of what happened. So within the first 3 months, I quit my job. And then 3 months after quitting my job was when I had my first property under contract, my first fix and flip. So it took me about...
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it's people think, a lot of people will do this whole build up, right? I have to have my income match my W-2 income, and then I can trail that off and keep this going up. And you just were like, no, in order for me to be successful, I have to do this right away. And that's scary. It's scary for us even to think about it. Cause we've talked, neither of us want to leave our jobs right now, but there will come a time, but we're well, we have to be making X amount in order to do it. And although I do know that probably if we did it, we would just hockey stick effect, right?
100%. I'm just so impressed you did a cold turkey. You just said, well, I know what I need to do. So see ya. And 3 months later, you said you had your first fix and flip. And now is that your primary strategy that your bread and butter these days?
No, I started off with fix and flip, and then it turned into boring properties and started amassing a rental portfolio. Now I buy larger commercial buildings, apartment syndications. I just bought my first office building. And then I'm more into borrowing the 3 to 4 unit buildings, and then syndicating super large multi-million-dollar buildings.
Awesome.
But I still do my fix and flips because I love those. And I just think they're still fun. They're active income. And I get to put all of my design aesthetic on my homes.
So let's talk about your portfolio then, and where it stands now. It sounds like you're still doing fix and flips. What does your rental portfolio look like? And is it in the Seattle, Washington area? Because there's a stigma or just a thought by people that's a really hard place to invest. They're so expensive. Do you live there and invest elsewhere? Just paint us a picture of your portfolio.
Okay. So yes, I actually invest in my backyard. It is for me, the best way to invest because my crew's all here. I'm boots on the ground. And then, so if I need to take like big, massive, drastic decisions, I can. Not just that, I am so into the microeconomic trends of my area. I'm like, I know what things are selling for. I know how much things are appreciating. So like, if I know my area that well, then why not just play in it? I have tried to do, hold a rental in Tampa. I'm part of an apartment syndication in Orlando. I am flipping a house in Cary, North Carolina, but only because my brother lives there and I want to get him in the business. And so I was like, okay, let's do one together and see how it goes. And I know it's going to be a home run. But like within Seattle, my rental portfolio right now is I'm flipping a house. I am renovating a 12-plex. I am renovating a 7-unit office building. I'm converting a triplex to a 4-plex, and then I also own about, 30 units or so, but all in the Seattle metro. And it is an extremely tough market to play in. But since this has been my market for the last 8 years, I've kind of figured out a niche of how do I buy right? How do I fix it right? And then how does that appreciate? So it's a hugely appreciating market, but if you can cash flow off of your appreciating assets, then that's the best kind of investment, right?
Yeah, this is a message for people that you can invest anywhere. The hard part is that you have to do it for a while, right? And you have to keep learning. You can pick Seattle, Washington. You can pick Kentucky. You can pick Arizona, California, whatever, you name it. You can pick that place. Right. But if you stay there for 6 months or 2 years, even, you may not learn it the way that you have. So you just have to stay there and learn it. And we brought on, Matt Faircloth, for example. He invests in 3 markets in the United States and he has thousands of units. So he knows 3 markets. And that's similar to what you're saying is like, you can invest in Seattle. You just have to know it and you have to keep investing there.
Correct.
So you mentioned a lot of different things in your portfolio, and you have the fix and flips, you have some long-term rentals, but I want to talk about the importance, if you could, of exit strategies when you go into analyzing deals. And just, can you talk to how certain deals can actually become a deal if you realize all the different exit strategies rather than just being one layered? And a lot of people, for example, will look at a deal and if it's not perfect fit for a long-term rental, they'll pass it up and they'll go on to another one. And I know you probably have a bunch of examples of ones you've kept that have been flourished into amazing deals that other people maybe overlooked.
Yeah, I love this question. It's like the best question I've been asked because I literally believe that exit strategies can really make you and make your portfolio in the long run. So for the first 3 years of being in real estate, all I did was buy properties and then flip them. Like over and over and over again, make a bunch of money, be extremely excited and happy about it. That's it. I never thought about keeping these. I never thought about adding more equity, value, forced appreciation at all. Then once I then I bought a house, which ended up becoming one of the largest deals that I've done to date. What happened was I bought this house and I saw that my neighbor's house right next door had a big plaque that said that the land was being subdivided. So then what I did was I actually went to the city and I was like, hey, can my land be subdivided? And they were like, yeah, for sure. It's the same, it's the same neighborhood. But what ensued was a 4-year process and just turmoil from every aspect that needed to be taken into account and redone and recreated. So I went through that process, but then in 4 years, I made $1 million off this deal. And I was going to flip this house and make a 30 grand profit. And instead I made $1 million. And
whoa, not to cut you off.
My head's spinning. You just said, think about what it would take for somebody to make $250,000 a year in their job.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you just said. 4 years, $1 million. And to take home, to keep that's not just making 250. It's the after effect of having them. So talk to us about this deal, and
what a subdivision is. We've never talked about this on the podcast. Yep. My dad actually works in excavation, so I know what a subdivision is. But if you could just explain that and then how it chunked up to work out in your favor for $1 million. You turn 30 grand potentially into 7 figures, which is incredible.
Yeah. So basically what happened was, so a subdivision is when you take one piece of land and then you divide it up into multiple parcels that are all buildable. So then you build more houses on that same piece of land. What I did was I took one piece of land and I subdivided that land into 3 different parcels. There was a house already existing on one of the parcels. And so I rehabbed that and held it for just rent. And then the rent covered the mortgage that I had on this property. And I was free and clear to subdivide this land in a way, right? So I subdivided it, added all my horizontal utilities into the other 2 parcels. So I added water, electricity, gas, put in sidewalks, curbs. I did all that work. And that's why it took 4 years. And once I did that, I was able to sell that house, which originally I planned on selling the whole parcel with the rehabbed house for 700, I want to say, but I ended up selling the house for $1 million. And I sold each of the lots for 500 grand.
Wow. So can you talk about the fortitude that you had there? Because I don't know. I mean, waiting 4 years, like think about the stock market right now, for example, how many people are panic selling? They're just like, I can't believe it. This is how, it's like, well, for us, I was like, I knew this was coming. Like, I'm just going to keep investing. We're 30. So it's easy for us to say, if you're 65 trying to retire, it probably really sucks. But the point that I'm trying to make is like 4 years of something. How did you have the vision to know, maybe you didn't know, that this was going to come out the right way?
Honestly, I had no idea. The only thing I knew was like one day, or the only thing I thought was that one day this is all going to come crashing down and all the money and effort I'd put into this was just going to vanish. And I was okay with that because I was hedging my bets. And this was not the only project I was working on. I started this project in 2017. It took me all the way to 2021. And between 2017 and 2021, I had done 50 other projects. So this was just one of 50 projects. So yes, I was sinking in money into this project, hoping that one day I would reap the benefits, but knowing that at any given time, I would lose it all. But what I was gaining in the process was an insane amount of experience. I was going to the city. I was having city council meetings. I had attorneys. I had to door knock 20 homes in my neighborhood to revise the zoning variants of this property. I had to get all their signatures on a bill passed. At the same time, like learning about horizontal construction, like what does that even entail, right? Like, how do you find someone? The property that I had was heavily wooded. So like, how do you find an arborist? How do you find geotech reports? How do you find a land use engineer?
My point here is so many people would give up after 1 or 2 hiccups along the way or adversity, right?
Yeah.
And you kept powering through and it almost seems like, I don't know, you're like a chess player. You're like moving things around and just figuring out how things work. And like to keep swinging the axe or however you want to use that phrase. But people, like I said, would give up. And I think another important thing to bring up is you can't be a one-trick pony in the real estate investing game.
No.
Because a lot of people would have given up in the beginning when they're like, oh, wow, like or not given up. They would have taken the 30 grand and said, okay, cool. But you pumped the brakes a little bit and you went in. I believe you mentioned you went on a drive through the neighborhood and you realized that the other land was subdivided around. You're like, oh, what's that? Let me look into it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You jumped your ROI way through the roof compared to from asking an extra question and doing a little bit more due diligence, which I think is just so important to mention. It's like, don't always take the easy route because it could lead to diamonds at the end of the road. So super important, super cool. And I think it just goes to the self-education piece. A lot of people want that instant gratification and they just take it and they run with it. But I don't know, maybe you could talk to just the education aspect of the importance of education in the real estate investing game and like, I mean, you're 8 years in, so I'm sure you've done numerous hours of studying and things. So I don't know, maybe talk to some resources or things that have helped you along the way so people can learn themselves.
The other thing about this one project is if I had acquired this lot or this house in the beginning of my real estate career, I would have flipped it 100%. But because I was so many homes in, I had built that patience. I had built that network. I could ask questions, and I could hold and I could have that patience to let myself ride the wave. But I know that if I had bought this house like well before all of this, like in year 1 or 2, I would have just flipped it. So just, it's okay. It's okay to go through your own process, because that's important too, just to gain experience and knowledge. But what's helped me is I love learning curves. So I did an addition on a house. I've done a historical lot subdivision. Like, I've done so many cool different things that I didn't know anything about. And the way I did that is always getting in front of a learning curve and saying, okay, how do I climb this? And the one thing that's helped me is listening to podcasts like this and then taking action, because taking action is everything. You can listen and you can read and you can get educated all you want, but if you're not taking action, that's like a moot point. Then building a super strong network, because my network literally solves all my problems. So if I have a tough question, if I want to go start an apartment syndication company, I know I can go on my LinkedIn. If I have specific questions about landlord-tenant laws, I know I can go to my local Facebook page. If I want to raise capital, I can go to my own network that I built. So it just, building that network can be so important over the long run, especially because real estate you're very much your own island, that if you don't connect with all these different bridges, then you're just stuck on your island.
I think that the fear of failure stops so many people. And I know people talk about that a lot, but if to relate it back to our story, is like, we've padded our I guess, personal buffer of the money that we're okay with losing, right? We know that failure is going to come, and we're okay with going into a new venture and having that fail. And I think that if you alleviate yourself from the mindset that if you fail forever, I think that is really something that can help people push through into the next thing. Like, okay, if I fail on this, that doesn't mean I'm going to continue to fail. And if I fail, I'm actually going to learn, and then I have the ability to then succeed. So I'm curious, like, I'm curious about a ton of things, but really what I want to talk about is the funding aspect of this, because most people go into it with like, all right, I'm going to use my own money. And then once I run out of money after 4 or 5 deals, I got to find money from other people. I got to go private money or hard money. You mentioned you had a bunch of projects going on. How did you get to the point where you were comfortable, A, and B, did you go immediately into sourcing other people's money, or did you use your own for the first couple of years like a lot of people do?
Yeah, I used my own money for the first couple of deals. And then I started sourcing private money. And the thought of borrowing money from someone else to fund my flips, to ultimately make myself a massive profit while giving them back pretty low interest rate, that concept like blew my mind. And I was like, why would anyone lend to me? Why would anyone do this? But then as I started to do projects and people started to say, oh, wow, she has the experience. I've tried my hand at this. I suck at it. Let me give her my money and just collect an interest rate. Like, that was like what was a turning point. And so what I ended up doing was Seattle's an expensive market. Today, it cost me $1 million to do a flip between acquisition, rehab, and holding costs. Back when I first started, it was about $500,000 to $700,000 to do a flip. And then I was doing like 8 to 10 of those. And that was just a lot of money that I did not have. So I would bring on like bridge and gap lenders that typically came from my network. So someone that had $100K that they wanted to park in a deal, then they would partner with me and I would give them an interest rate or equity in my deal. I also used a lot of hard money lenders, like really amazing people that, made it super easy for me to finance my deals. And eventually in 2018, I ended up finding these 2 people that wanted to build their own hard money lending company. And the 3 of us basically based that lending company off of my own lending experience or borrowing experience. And that company, which used to be called Certain Lending, now is Vontive, has blown up. They lend in 48 states now, and they make it super easy for me to borrow money. So anytime I'm in a pinch, they're the ones that kind of bail me out.
So you get lent money based off your reputation now after you built that up for as long as you have.
Right.
Very cool.
That's very impressive and awesome. And it's amazing testament to building your network and watching and kind of growing with them. Can you talk, I know we talked a lot about networking and, you know, your network is your net worth. We say that pretty much every show. So get like a dead horse. But my point here is, can you talk about because we haven't really peeled the layers back on this, is like, how do you organize your network? There's something about like having conversations like us, right? We have this conversation and we've had 100 of these, but there's a certain thing that you have to keep in touch with people and then like provide value, right? That we talked about that at length earlier. It's like, how do you organize your network and stay in touch with these people so that way it doesn't feel like a big ask when you need help?
Yeah, you know, I think social media makes it so easy for us to keep in touch with our network. Anytime I post something of value, then my network responds, and then it's easy for me to go and like respond to their comments and kind of stay in touch. Also taking the time to go look through their posts and liking their stuff, you know, and then commenting on their posts. I think that's huge. But also I'm a big believer of like meeting people for lunches and coffees and dinners and whatever it takes to kind of keep in touch with not everybody, because that's like impossible. But a couple of people that are really like instrumental in growing my business. Like I'm having dinner tonight with the CEO of the lending startup. And so like, you know, and he's a business partner and he's someone that I really cherish, and I'll take the time out to go see him. So like, just, you know, making that extra effort, and then also being available to your network when they need you is huge. You can't always like take. Like I'm happy to always answer questions. I'm a great connector of people. So like, I'm like, hey, Corey, what do you need in your business? And I'm happy to connect you to someone in mine. And that way I'm touching two people at the same time.
I seriously love that, because I've made a conscious effort. We have over the past year plus, as we start to build our own network, that when people reach out to us and they have at least an idea of what they want, I don't like when people reach out and they're like, you know, save me from the situation, right? Because I don't know how to do that. I'm not, you know, but if they have an idea of what they want, I love saying, you know what, I know somebody here. I'm going to put them in a group chat. Boom. Let you take the rest. It doesn't take that much effort on our end, but I can connect people and let them take it. And just that simple connection has allowed me to sleep well at night and be like, I'm helping other people. Like I'm able to provide that value, and it's something simple. And you would hope that people think of you in that same way. Although expecting nothing in return is really the best approach, in my opinion.
Totally. And you know, I have to tell you guys one thing that you did like so well, that I actually bookmarked this in my brain. And I was like, okay, I got to do.
You have some space in your brain. I can't believe it. That's awesome. Some real estate in your brain. That's the best real estate we've ever bought.
I know you do. You have it. You took a few key accounts and you like highlighted them in your stories and you tagged them and you said, go follow these accounts. And then you would highlight like 10 accounts. Like I think it was every week or every month or
not every favorites.
Friday favorites. Wow. You've been with us for a while. I haven't done that so long. I got to bring it back. We got to bring it back.
No, that's like so valuable, because then I would actually go through those accounts and be like, why do they think this is valuable? And go through them and then I started doing that when you first tagged my account and said, oh, go follow her. I'm like, who are these people? Like, I love them, you know? And so I think that was just such a genius move.
Thank you. Wow.
I can't believe it was genius, but
it's funny how like you're just on this journey, right? Like the real estate journey, but like the social media journey, and you try different things and you don't know what hits, you don't know what people remember, because if they're not reaching out and telling you it, right? You don't know what moved them, right? So thank you for bringing that up. It's really cool. And I also wanted to touch on the being available thing, right? I think that's so important. I mean, we as humans,
it's hard to do, man, but it's
so hard because our attention span, first of all, is like tiny. Everyone, like 3 seconds for everybody. However, if someone comes on our show, it's like you've given us an hour to 2 hours of your life. That's super valuable. You could be, I just think of like the amount of dollars each person makes or investor makes with their real estate business. I'm like, wow, they're like essentially we're essentially like not paying them, but we should be paying them to be on the show for how much money we're, I guess, spending of their time. So the other day, for example, we had a gentleman who was on the show, and he's been in real estate forever, and he's awesome. And he randomly I think he's like 50s or 60s. He hit us, maybe he's late 40s. So don't kill me if you hear this and you know who you're talking about. But he hit us, sorry, but he hit us up and he's like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. I have a couple questions for you guys. And I'm like, even if it's 9 p.m, I'm talking to this guy because he gave us his time.
Yeah.
And I want to give a little something back to what I can. And like, even if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find the answer for you and plug them in the right direction. And I just, to your point, it's like this reciprocal relationship where it's like, it's not a one-way street. And I think that's where a lot of people that's where you see successful people, right? There's always give more than you take. And I think that is where you see the people at the top because they just keep giving. Other people just are attracted to that. And they see the genuine, right? Be ready, be available. And even if you're tired, you don't want to do it, it's building your network and it's super important. So let's get to flipping and rehabbing and get into that because Leica, you are, I could use the word connoisseur in this space. Can you give us just the X's and O's 101 of a flip, right? We've talked about flips on the podcast before, but we haven't gone through the exact structure. Like, can you just walk us through elementary, like beginning to end? And if it's, you don't have to go super in depth on everything. We'll ask questions along the way, but what's involved with flipping a house?
Okay. So what is a flip 101? You buy a distressed property, typically either using your own capital or finding a hard money lender because a conventional bank will not finance a distressed property. And then once you buy the property, you're going to go in there and you're going to fix it up. Sometimes all it requires is paint and carpet. Sometimes it's going to be a full gut remodel. Mine are mostly full guts. What that means is I'm basically touching everything. I'm taking it all down to the studs. So just the foundation, the framing of the house, and the exterior walls remain. Everything inside is being gutted so I can rebuild it to the exact floor plan that I want. Once it's all built and looks pretty, you can, if you want, stage it, photograph it, and put it on the market to sell the property. Once it is sold, you pay off your debtors and all of your insurance, your selling costs, and you come away with a nice, sweet little profit.
Love it. But what you were mentioning about the flipping is that you said this earlier, kind of like, nonchalantly, but I think it's important to note that it's active income, right? Flipping homes is not investing. And we bring on people that talk about flipping, and it's an excellent way to build your active income. But then when you get that income, what do you do with it? Because you have to keep showing up every day and keep flipping in order to make that income. Now, it's a great way to make income. We've talked to people who make millions of dollars a year flipping, but it is a job, right? I mean, you would describe it like that, not as an investment.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the step 2 is then taking the profit from your flips and buying long-term rentals, buy and hold properties that you're really not touching on a day-to-day basis, but you're making cash flow, you're making appreciation off of it. And that's really building long-term wealth.
How do you effectively manage the process of a flip? I don't know you personally. Maybe you're in there with a hammer and nails and laying flooring, but something tells me you've built this team out that does it for you. So what is your process of doing that? Do you have one construction team that you use your go-to that you trust? Sounds like you probably couldn't possibly do that if you're investing in or flipping in so many different areas. How do you trust people in Seattle, and how do you trust people in California and Orlando, wherever else you invest?
Yeah. So I try to hire amazing general contractors that honestly own all the subs, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, roofers. But I hire one general contractor to manage all of that because that honestly takes the work out of my hands. And only because I've done it every which way. I've been my own GC. I have subcontracted everything. I have outsourced everything. I have managed the whole process. And I know that hiring one contractor is the most time effective. It may not be the most cost effective, but then imagine all the time that you get back that you can play with and go do more properties, right? So I just hired a general contractor that does it all for me. I do have 3 to 4 different teams that I work with. Some do super high-end luxury flips, some do commercial, some do like the more like mid to high-end flips. So they're all in the Seattle market. Same with Cary, where I'm flipping a house right now, is hired a general contractor that has great experience flipping or remodeling homes that are meant for investors, investor flips. It's super important for your contractor to understand why you're doing this, and for you to understand that you are doing this as a quick turnkey property to quickly flip and sell. And so you have to also go easy on your contractors. So it has to be like a two-way partnership. And I've been able to just grow and develop some great teams over here in Seattle.
Wow.
I want to bring this up, and we're doing it on a smaller scale than you. And we hired somebody who is just maybe one of the most skilled craftsmen that I've ever met to do a project for us. And this guy and his small team, wasn't a GC, but a small team, flipped a house for us. We ended up keeping it, as we mentioned. But the relationship that we built with this guy is like, it's like magic almost, because I text him and I'm like, hey man, like I know you're really busy. I have to fix something in the back of my personal home. My dude is there the next day charging me half of what he would charge somebody else just because he likes us, because we sent him a gift for his wedding. And it's like, he's like, these guys are like, the both of us are like, they care about me. And like, they care about the business relationship. And he told us, I'm going to flip this home around for you in 60 days. And I looked at Rai and I was like, that's going to be a lot. He works a full-time job. He was there from 5 to midnight every night. And he did it for us. And the relationship that we built and the genuine honesty, trust, and appreciation that we had for him it's already dividends over and over, and stuff we didn't even ask for. But I just wanted to bring that up. The relationship. It's like, you say relationship, but like, what does that truly mean?
It's nurturing the relationship.
Yeah.
I want to bring this up to the point is like, we would surprise and delight him with a coffee, some donuts. We asked for his favorite. I know it sounds cheesy, but like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite candy? And show up with that stuff randomly when you know he's going to be there. And then the guy's getting married. I got married and I was like, I just remember like little things that would touch you that you weren't expecting along the way. I was like, dude, let's just write this guy a little card, toss a couple $100 in it, and just say, thinking about you, congratulations on your big day. That man was so moved by this card. He called the person that introduced us to him, or was my mentor or our mentor, and was almost in tears. He's like, those guys are two of the most genuine guys in the whole world. Like, cannot believe. He goes, I don't care about the money. They wrote me a card. I'm their contractor. And it's just that little tiny thing that we'll have a lifelong relationship from that. And like, I can't, he with one ring every single time he picks up the phone, he's like, what's up guys? What do you need? Like, dude, it's not, we just want to say, what's up?
To add to that, I think people take networking and they say, you know what? I got to go around to this big town hall type meeting and hand out all my business cards. And I got to touch as many people as possible. And the people that you hand them out to are going like this, throwing it over their shoulder. Because if you try to sell something, or you try to provide something to people that they don't want, but B, they don't know you. They don't even know who you are. And I think that networking is not that. And I try to stay away from these big networking events only because I can smell the sharks and they're all out there trying to find like the food. And it's not, I just like the more intimate approach of like, how can you really help somebody? How can you really provide that value? And it sounds like, I mean, you have teams everywhere. So you've done that. I just think it's so cool.
I love that, you guys, because that's like so important to do. And that's honestly how I've retained my contractors. Like every contractor I work with for a minimum of 5 projects. And then most recent contractor, I think we've done about 40 projects together. Because I'm also a real estate broker. And so if any of my clients need homes fixed before a listing, then I like send my contractor out to do their projects. So it's pretty amazing, the relationship you've built and how you can nurture and grow that.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. We could talk for an hour on just like tips and tricks, I'm sure, on how to like nurture and provide that personal touch, if you will, like
Right.
and build the relationship. I want to talk about, just because you have built 5 different teams or 4 different teams in a lot of different markets, how do you find a good GC that you trust and that like you can potentially get into 40 deals with this person? Are there specific interview questions you ask, or is it, hey, I'm asking other successful investors who they use? Just, I know sometimes it's so simple, the answer, but I'm just curious what you use, because you've seen a lot of
I
success.
love that question too, because the best contractors that I found is through my subcontractors. So it's like going to my subcontractors and saying, hey, like I've used the same electrician for the last 6 years, the same plumber for the last 5 to 6 years. So I'm like, hey, who do you guys like working with? Who are some of the contractors that you like working with? Who pays you on time? Who shows up to the job site? Whose guys don't, it's not like a revolving door, that they all stick together. And then the people that they say that they like working with are the people that I then contact. And I'm like, okay, do you have bandwidth to take on another project? And typically these guys have worked within your network with other investors that you can easily go to a different investor and say like, hey, what do you think of this guy? Should I work with them? Should I give them my project? And so always find your guys through your friends and your network and your subcontractors. I think that's a sure way of making it like a referral based system, is a sure way of making sure you're hiring good guys.
I think putting yourself out there is like the first step to doing any of this. And it really is starting with one. You start with one person and maybe they do an okay job. Let's say they're not doing an amazing job, but they do an okay job. They still know people that may have better skill sets than them. And then you kind of weed through and you figure out who works and who doesn't work. And I think that it's all starts with just like, you have to try it and you got to screw some stuff up. And it's like, you just got to be okay with screwing stuff up. The only problem is you can't lose $100,000 on your first deal if you don't have it. If you can avoid catastrophe on your first deal, then you can survive and be successful in this. So
I think people just get so nervous because there are so many different aspects of real estate, and it all comes down to building relationships and building teams and trusting other people. And a lot of people have difficulty where they're like, hey, I'm not totally sure I trust myself in real estate yet. Like, I don't know everything. So how can I trust someone else? I don't want to get burned. But it truly is the whole thing with real estate is going back and checking yourself into the school of hard knocks. Like, you have to literally go out and do it, and you have to fail to learn. You have it's just going to happen. It's just mitigating that risk as much as you possibly can, without going to zero or below zero, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll make it past your first deal. We love going in on partners that Corey and I were like, okay, let's split our risk in half. I trust you with my family. So I'll give you my money. If you burn it, I don't care, but I know that you're going to take care of it as your own. And that's kind of how we've seen success. And obviously there's a lot more layers to that, but it's just a prime example of like, hey, if you don't trust yourself to go in alone, there are other people out there that have done it, seen success, that you can jump in with as long as you provide value. So,
and the whole point behind that is, in order to find that person that you're okay giving your social security number to and have it, is that you have to just be super authentic, like to the point where it's like you have your vulnerabilities just out there. And that, like, because finding a partner is not that easy. And I'm not talking about a money partner, like somebody who's just sourcing the money, because I'm talking about somebody that you can go into the trenches with. That has found for us, I felt like that's the best way to approach it, but it doesn't always work for everybody. Like, I know people that are like, I've had all these partners do this and that, and it hasn't worked out. So you kind of have to find your niche there, but we love the partnership aspect of it. Do you have anybody else that you work hand in hand with on the actual like acquisitions and that side, or all of your partners, the lawyers and the accountants and the contractors type?
No, I don't have a direct partner in my company, but what I do have is amazing partnerships within my community. Like, I've been buying deals from the same wholesaler for the last 8 years, and I continue to buy from his team because his team trusts me. I trust his team. I have the same listing team that I've worked with. I have the same stager, the same escrow company. So these are all long-term relationships.
Okay.
But as far as partnerships go, I mean, my husband is like a silent partner, but he is a business partner.
Very cool.
Got it.
One more before we get to the next topic. I just wanted, if someone came up to you today and said, hey, listen, I'm really interested in real estate investing, but I have not started yet. I don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give someone fresh out of maybe college, right? That's getting into their first job. And they're like, I know I'm going to have to go grind the hours and work my job, but I really want to get into real estate. What do you suggest I do today?
So first, understand your market. Like just go on Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com and really understand your market. Like see what neighborhoods you want to play in, what homes are selling for, what people are buying them for, what they can be fixed up for. Then go build out that network. So go to your local meetups and find other people that you know you can connect with. Because if you start to have fun with the people in your community, then you're going to grow much faster. Once you've gone and built that network, find someone that you can shadow, and then bring value. Either bring the money or bring the deal or do something else that helps them see you as an asset. And then just shadow them. I have a 23-year-old that works with me now, and he's a full-time employee at Facebook. And he bugged me for a whole year about wanting to learn about fix and flips. And one day he came to actually see one of my flips. And at that same second, like my wholesaler called me and said, hey, I have another house literally down the corner. Like if you want to come take a look at it, it would be a great buy for you. It's a great flip. So I took this 23-year-old and I was like, let's go see this property. So we went to see the property. I was like, this is a great flip, but I don't have the money right now. And I don't have the inclination to go raise capital. He said, leave the capital to me and you just go say yes to the deal. So then he went out and he raised 200 grand from his network. And we ended up partnering on this deal and I made him a really cool profit.
That's the best advice I heard in episodes on episodes, because that kid, 23 or whatever, that man is like, he just kept the fact that he just kept showing up and you were probably like, fine.
Again?
like Jesus, God, fine, I'll help you. And but there's the persistency of that without being like there's a line of hopefully he's not stalking, but it's like the persistency of just showing up and kind of kicking the door in. I mean, it's kind of the way things have to be done. And we have people that have reached out to us that took 4 or 5 DMs for us to answer, not because we don't want to answer, but because we just get a lot. So, right. And then we having somebody the other day who has sent us messages like, hey, I really love to catch up for a beer. And before you know it, 5, 6, 7 messages later, we're on a Zoom call with him last week, and great guy. So it's just, and there'll be some sort of partnership that comes from that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just crazy the way you just got to keep punching, keep going through it, and
without being really annoying. And there's a little bit of a line, right? You
don't want to be the crazy person that's got all the unread text, but it's it's give and take. And when you see an opportunity, keep plugging along. That's a prime example. And I think that's so amazing. There's also, I believe, Alex Camacho has this guy named Will, and I keep seeing him all over social media.
Oh, Will Wall is amazing.
I don't know his full story. I want to hear it, but I know I believe he was one of the guys that just kept hitting the door down. And he's like, hey, I want to work in real estate. How do I do it? And I think he's like Alex's go-to guy now, which is incredible.
He's amazing. He's so sweet. I mean, Alex is so sweet. He'll do anything for me. And then Will Wall is just, is just another really cool guy. He's so supportive of even me and my endeavors. So sweet.
Awesome. So love to hear it.
I brought the story up. We're going to move to the next section here in a minute, but I brought the story up about my personal life 50, 60 episodes ago, as I'm a basketball coach. I coach high school basketball, and this hasn't brought me any more than a couple $1,000s a year in direct dollars. But I went to the head coach of this team his network is unbelievable. He's owned multi-million-dollar businesses, and he coaches one of the best high school teams in the country. Thank you very much. I said to him, I have a full-time job. I'm trying to build a real estate. I just want to volunteer. And he was like, you would, I was coaching at the higher level. I was coaching in college at the time. And he was like, you would leave to come here? Asking me, I was like, yeah, I just want to help out. Boom. He's one of my biggest mentors in my life because I wanted to do it for free. So yeah, I was 26 or 25. It's okay to offer up your services for free, swallow your pride, because the benefits to just continue to pay you in ways that is really not even dollars. So I just wanted to bring that up. I haven't shared that story in a while. So people that are new listening,
He's changed your life dramatically.
Oh,
drastically.
Dude, I cannot even put into words how much this person has impacted me personally. Like, he'll be at my wedding, like that type of, it's just like, so I'm not even sure why, but just to keep stay humble and ask yourself, like, what would you do for other people in order to the chance of building a relationship? And that's the cool thing.
So true.
Yeah. So I think we have a couple sections left in our show. I want to talk about, you did talk about a lucrative deal, but I want to talk about maybe if you pick a different one, a specific deal that you can give us the numbers on. Maybe it's a buy and hold. That's what we like. So if you have a property that maybe you fixed up, if you can give us the details on what you bought it for, what you rehabbed it for, maybe what it rents for, maybe the return, just give us some details on one of your favorite investment properties.
Okay. So I bought a house in 2018 to just fix up and sell, but the house looked weird. Like it was like a box and it had two entrances. So the top floor had an entrance and then the basement had its own separate entrance. And then I later found out that it used to be what's called an adult family home. And so I was like, why would we need an adult family home? Let me convert this into a single family home. So I went in and I remodeled it. I spent about $150K. I bought this house for $575. I put in $150K, fully renovated it and put it on the market for $900. And my stager, who is just my long-term friend, an amazing human, she walked through the house and she was like, wow, this would make a really good adult family home. And I was like, imagine that. And I had converted it back into a single family home. So I was like, okay, let me walk through this process and see what that entails, right? And so I went in and I started to research permits and whatever to convert this home into an adult family home, then realized in that process that I should actually take off the garage, the attached garage, and instead put in a whole new apartment in there attached to the house. So put on an addition into the house. The house is already 3,600 square feet. What I ended up doing was removing the garage and putting on a 1,200 square foot addition. So ultimately it became a 4,600 square foot home. The addition cost me $185 to build. So now I've taken this 3,600 square foot home into a 4,600 square foot home. I put in 10 bedrooms, 3 kitchens, and really made it a triplex. And now this property, it rents for about $8,500 a month. I make positive cash flow of $3,500 a month, but also the rent is paying off my principal. And the whole property will appraise at about between 1.8 and 2 million.
So if I heard you correctly, 1.8 to 2 million, and you're all in for like 900-ish. Is that what you said?
950, I want to say.
Okay. So you just created $1 million. Like, okay. Like, you just did so that's amazing. What gave you what gave you the foresight to see that end result? Cause I don't even know if I would, to me, the bigger the home if it's not divided, I feel like it wouldn't cash flow. What gave you the idea to do that? It's just so interesting.
Yeah. Just the way that the house was built in the first place. And then the ability to add on 1,200 additional square feet. So I extended the main floor into a 6-bedroom house. I put in a 2-bedroom addition, like an apartment. And then the basement has another 2 bedrooms and a full kitchen and a living room. The 2 entrances, I was just like, this is a buy and hold. This is like a burr. But obviously there were so many other issues that we ran into. The city, instead of taking 2 months to give us our permits, took 8 months. The end of the 8 months, we went into COVID and stopped construction. So just as we were starting construction, we stopped construction. And then, so instead of it being a 3-month construction time, we ended up taking about 8 months. So the whole project took about 16 months to fully be done. But at the end of those 16 months, I had this most gorgeous property with almost a triplex. It's not zoned as a triplex, but it is a triplex.
I'm laughing because would you wait 16 months to be a millionaire from one property? I would wait a lot longer than that. So I just
How
think
about 4 years and then another $1 million on the other property you talked about earlier?
I know.
Like, come
See,
on.
while I was working on that project, I was also working on this project. So
It's so, it's interesting. And I don't know what it is about you, but I almost
It's a
feel
good
like
positivity.
you're not money hungry in a way like that. Like I can just tell
I'm not.
genuinely-
You read me so right.
It's just, you're so happy to talk
It's
about
not
this and it's
like-
infectious. And I think it just translate to the deals. And like, people will be like, oh yeah, $1 million. And then like brag about it. And like, they'd really go into it. And you're like, yeah, it's like, it was a 7-figure deal. It's like, it's amazing. It's incredible, but it's the love and the care that you put into the idea. And I think that's what transforms into dollars. And he asked the question that I don't even think you could answer because you might not even know how. It's like, how did you have this idea or this conceptualization to change this or morph this property into what you did?
I didn't.
It's just, sometimes it's just the gift, right? Or going through 40 flips or however many you've done, and you just had the experience, you've studied things along the way. And then it just comes out, you're like, I just know, like, this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put that into an answer, but I'm kind of like getting a picture of your brain as you talk. And it's
I think it's for me, like, it's not about, it is about the end result. But I think the biggest part about all of this is the execution. I'm just so terrified of failing on the execution that I'll do anything to make that execution work. So I will hit and hit and hit and hit and hit until I have exhausted all opportunities to make something work. And I think if you look at it from so many multiple different angles, it is just going to work. And that's why like no project scares me now because of all the crazy deals I've done in the past.
I think that's your competitive advantage or your superpower, because a lot of people don't have, literally 99% of the population, how about that, do not have that. They're like, nah, 1 speed bump, I'm out. Or maybe 5 speed bumps I can deal with, I'm out. Not 700 speed bumps, and I still want to figure it out because that's what I want to prove. I'm not after the dollars. It's proving I can do it and I can find the solution. And it's just, it's amazing that you're built that way because not many people are.
I agree. And I heard Brandon Turner said this one day. I know you're close with him, so we'll be thanking you for the invite, for the introduction at some point later.
God.
But I heard him say, and I don't know if he got it from, I think it's maybe one of his coaches or something said this to him, like, what if making money or making that million was, what if you did it and it was easy or and it felt light or something like that. And I feel like you have a positivity towards you that makes things feel light, because there is a stigma about making money that it's grinding and it's hard, and it is all those things. But if you change your mindset to believe that it could be easier, I think personally, universe will allow it to be easier if you believe it can be easier. So it doesn't mean it always is going to be, but I just think that if you're not like stressing out all the time about it, I think that you're going to find that it might be a little bit easier than you think. That's just,
I think it's also your attitude towards things, whether it's a relationship, whether it's just an investment property or an investment strategy. If you can show up to work every day or show up to life every day and be like, I'm going to just have fun today. You're just going to have fun today, and then
I could not agree more. I have a situation sometimes where I'm like in the office, and I'm like, I can feel the energy's bad, and I'm like, I'm not going to play along with the energy. I want to bring the positivity. And I think that it's infectious and it helps other people, but I could talk about this all night.
Yeah. I love the philosophy and like the mentality aspect. I told you, once we get into philosophy at the end of the show, I can't shut up. It's my favorite part, but it's something about you. And I bring it back to a couple seconds ago, like that infectious energy that you bring. It's like, obviously people are going to want to do deals with you or give you money and source deals with you because you're just so fun loving with it. And it's like, obviously it's going to get done. She's already seen success, right? You've proven the success, but why not go with you over someone else to have fun with it? I don't want to like stress about my money every day. And just like, if I can learn something new and have fun while doing it, like that's what I'm going to do. So thanks for bringing the ball of fresh air or energy.
My wholesaler is funny. My wholesaler sends me a deal and then he signs off, love you so much.
Like, come on, like seriously, like you're like, I love working with this person. Other people are just like, advise, like, you know what I mean? Like that,
regards,
like, best. Like it's, I don't know. That is a perfect send off because it makes total sense. So
Yeah.
Sounds like we made it to the core four, and I felt like we've gotten to know you pretty well. Rye just literally read your mind, he said. So that was cool. But I like to get to learn what makes you tick. And we're going to ask you the same 4 questions that we ask all of our guests. And the first one's a simple one. Do you have a resource or a book, favorite book, business book, investing book, whatever comes to mind for you that has helped you along your journey that you could share with our listeners?
I mean, I'll talk about a resource. Like, I love the Bigger Pockets podcast. I think, just the caliber of guests that they bring on. And then they have a new show now. It's called On the Market with the Data Deli. And a lot of my friends that I actually, I interviewed on multiple pilot episodes and I didn't get in, but I love the show and I love the people that made it. So definitely such a massive, amazing resource for anyone that's interested in current trends.
Wow, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was listening to the main show and they were saying that there's a new show. I mean, they have like 4 or 5 more shows.
Because David took over from Brandon
Rob Built.
Rob Built.
Yeah.
I found him on YouTube. I couldn't believe he was now the new co-host. He's awesome.
Yeah. We have not interviewed Rob, but we interviewed David, and it was like personally one of my favorite episodes just because like he's a wizard. So like, and
David is amazing.
He just has his analogies and he's just with it, right? And he's done a bunch of podcasts. He brings the energy.
He's like that guy now. I truly think he's brilliant. And so thank you for sharing that. Second question
in the core 4 is, and we know everybody's in different spots, so that's why we're asking this question. If you were given an additional $50K lump sum of cash today, not taxed, just like, here you go, how would you use it? Whether you invest it, spend it, like give us your little pie chart on how you'd, issue this $50K and why.
I just because I'm a little bit more experienced today, I would put it back into educating the community in some way. I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's sending out like 100 books to 100 different people. Maybe it's taking everyone on like a field trip to go see some cool new asset class and or it's setting up a conference. I don't know, but it would be something to do with giving back.
Let's say you were at the beginning of your journey and somebody handed you $50,000. I would
go find a distressed property. Easy.
Okay.
I would go find a distressed property and then I would learn everything I could with hands-on experience on how to make that a better property and keep it, whether it's a rental, flip, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But how would I fix it up?
Love it.
Love that.
So we've talked about a lot of success, and success is amazing. That's what we want to hear. But I want to know what your biggest mistake is. Question 3 is, what is your biggest mistake that you've made along your investing journey? And like, how have you learned? I'm sure there's been a lot.
So easy. So for the first 3 years of my career, I just kept flipping properties, not holding them. Once I learned about holding and building passive income, I was like, wow, I just spent so many years creating active income and doing active income that if I had just held on to a couple of those properties, put it back into actually buying rentals, not buying more flips, I would have had a much larger portfolio, more net worth today. So I think starting to hold properties, like even as you're starting, like flip one, hold one, flip one, hold one, it's a much better strategy. Than
just that said, I mean, I feel like a lot of flippers say that, but we talked to somebody specifically that was like, I had 100 flips, and if I just hold on to a quarter of them, I'd be like literally have my own island by now or something. I forget who it was, but it wasn't Mark, but there was I think it's been happened multiple times on our episode. They're like, if I just held on to these properties, but that's a great example.
It is. And I want to touch on one thing because it's kind of in this same realm of things. Can you touch on your fortune cookie story? Because I know there are some dark days in real estate, and I think just people hit a wall at some point. And they're like, I don't think I can keep pushing forward. And I know it's a little aha moment. It won't happen and be this subtle or non-subtle of a message from the powers that be, but can you just talk about a story that has helped you power through and get through some dark days here?
Yeah, okay. So in 2017, I had hired an awful contractor. Again, I didn't get him through my network. I met him at a networking event. He claimed to be this amazing contractor that was doing 70 projects. And I didn't ask for referrals. I mean, I did, but he didn't give them to me, whatever. Just ended up making a really bad hire. And he made my life so miserable that I was just like, what am I even doing all this for? Like, this is just awful. That was one thing. The second is, I was in the process of flipping a house, got red tagged, and then went into the whole permitting, phase. And that was taking forever. And I was dealing with another project that was just like the whole basement had flooded. Like all these things were coming in at one time. And I was just like ready to throw my hands up in the air and be like, I quit. Like, I quit. This is too much for me to handle. And I'm not cut out for this. And I was having dinner with some friends at home. We ordered some Chinese food in, and I don't even eat fortune cookies. And that day I was like, I'm craving something sweet. I'm going to break open this fortune cookie. And literally it said, you will do well in the field of real estate. And I was like, oh my God, like that just gave me the chills. I was like, this cannot even be true. And I remember my husband and I looked at each other. We're like, okay, just gotta like plow along.
It said real estate on the fortune cookie. Like, I can't even believe that that's true.
Yeah, no, it's on my Instagram. It's like I had to post about it. So it's on my Instagram from 2017, and literally said, you will do well in the field of real estate. I can't even make this shit up. So
no, you can't.
I was just like,
It's
oh
brilliant.
my God, how did that happen?
You want your purpose. There you go. You got it. I mean, I don't know. You
got it.
got a message, and they're not usually as like right in your face as that. So
And
somebody was like,
are somehow like cryptic, right? Like mostly cryptic. This was like bold, like in my face. Like it was amazing.
it's like, stop what you're doing
Now.
and don't stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Keep doing, because you're going to see
doing
success. And look at you now. It's brilliant.
well,
So I
who knows
had
the
to bring it
power of a fortune cookie. I don't typically eat them either, but I might have to open more.
Yeah, I might have to crack a couple open after that. That's great.
Just keep opening
All right,
up.
what should I be doing, man? Tell me.
Go buy an apartment building in the southeast.
Exactly. Can you be more specific? This longitude and latitude. Here's the plot of land. Oh
Yeah.
God.
Make
Love
it be
it.
a 51 unit.
It's too good. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. So last question, the core four is, and this is what I really want to dive into. It's a little bit of a thinker, but we talked about how you're not super motivated by money. Like you're just you like to see projects to their completion, but I don't want to answer this for you and tell you who you are. Can you give Corey and I the answer to this question, which is, what do you want your legacy to be? Like, why do you get up out of bed every morning to do what you do? What motivates you, and kind of what's your why?
My why obviously includes, building out this massive portfolio for my kids, my grandkids, making them, one day look back and be like, my grandmom or like my great grandmom was this super like amazing human. And, just also at the same time, making them super humble, having them see me work hard and instill a kind of work ethic in them to work hard, that money doesn't come easy, that you have to work for it, would be like amazing. But also I'm a huge believer of just, being a brown woman. You don't see many people like me in the real estate industry. And when I go on stages and when I go into conferences and people see me talk and get on stage and talk about, the pros, the cons, my ups and downs, my highs and lows, they often come back and say, okay, you really inspired us, because if you can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. So just like being able to motivate people to go out and carve this path and find financial freedom. Because honestly, I think the amazing thing about doing what we do is you don't need to have a lot of money. You don't need to have a lot of education. You don't need to go to Ivy League to get that education. It's all about hard work, hustle, and grit. And I feel like if you can showcase that and tell people that they can build their own roadmap, that there is no one path to follow, I think that's powerful.
One of my favorite things in this world is talking to people that don't look like me. And I think that you're an example of that. We don't look alike, right? But the to learn from people that are from all over this planet that are successful is like it's the coolest thing that you can do, because there's always something to learn from somebody that you otherwise would not have a connection with. But if you put yourself out there and just be open-minded about who you are and who other people are, the similarities all of a sudden start to flare up, and you're like, look at us in this room. We're not in the same room, but it feels like we are just talking about real estate. I just think it's a beautiful thing. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And that's why on our podcast, we interview people that are from everywhere. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. We made it to the last drop. And
I'm touched, guys. That was nice.
yeah, you like that?
You almost had me tearing up. That was awesome. I was like, damn, I love this shit.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
It's so fun. Like I
I
can't.
couldn't have said it better. You killed
Yeah.
that. That was perfect.
So let's say, knowing what you know now, maybe I don't even know how old you are, but let's say you go back.
21, obviously, dude.
Yeah.
She's a lady.
Let's say you go back to your 18-year-old self.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you tell your 18-year-old self? Would she even listen? Who knows?
At 18, I was actually building my first company.
Okay. 14.
All right, let's talk about 5-year-old. Like,
No, it was funny. I built my first company. I was all over the local newspaper and I was making a ton of money. But I would say, just continue to grind and you can make, like, even against all odds, you can make a pretty fun life for yourself.
very cool. Let's touch on that really quick. 18, building your own company is nothing to just like, hey, that was cool. See you later.
Yeah.
What is it? And is it in fashion merchandising? Is this in the real estate side? Like,
No, it was so funny. So I learned this craft that I was creating craft out of bread, the bread that we eat. But it's like, if you add the right chemicals to it, it becomes ceramic-y and like you can actually make like really cool things with it. So I was making all this like really fun things and then all the people locally, like all my friends' moms and everyone started looking at it and said, hey, can you teach our daughters how to do this or our sons? And then I started a school teaching people how to make this craft. And then people started making it and they would pay me so much money to come to this school. And so I ended up having 200, 300 students that I taught. And then I would have like a lot of like sales where I would sell my craft. But anyway, I just made like a lot of money and I was like probably the richest college student I knew. And then I was loaded and I could like go eat whatever I wanted, go shop, and it was kind of weird because my friends were just students going to college and, but it was cool.
I firmly believe this. I know people say this all the time, but I firmly believe that if you were to like pick you up and just like drop you anywhere in the world, that you'd figure out whatever entrepreneurial venture would take you to wherever you want to go. Like I firmly believe it. Like there are certain people that's I really believe it's true. So I mean, you were making like I'm not trying to like mitigate. Like you were making like that story is like you're making bread. Like I can't even. Like,
well, okay. I'm trying to like piece back on where this a part of your journey was. Like you're 18. How old were you when you came over to the States?
I was 24.
So you've made it everywhere. You figured it out. Like you could literally, to your point, you could drop her literally anywhere and you just figure it out. That's an amazing quality to have. Wow.
I love it. So first of all, I want to thank you so much.
You guys are so kind to me. So thank you so much.
We like you if you can't tell.
Yeah, we do.
I like you back.
Thank you.
We're just happy to make the connection. So we want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. If people want to learn more about you and your story, I don't know who wouldn't at this point. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Maybe network or just learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on both platforms. My first and last name is how you'd find me, Lekha Devta. I do host a virtual meetup. So if you want to be in the same room with me, then come join the meetup. It's once a month.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put everything in the show notes, tagging a bunch of stuff. And if you want to learn more from Lekha, which we will be doing, make sure to give her a follow on Instagram. But Lekha, it's been an absolute pleasure, as you can tell by now. Cora and I had an absolute blast. You're a breath of fresh air.
Oh my God, it's so
amazing
much fun.
Episode. So thank you so much for your time. It was we really value it.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in this week. If you enjoyed the show and like what you heard, please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The more ratings we get, the more eyes we'll get on our show. And in turn, we'll be able to provide you all with high quality guests. It's simple. Open your podcast app, type in our podcast name, The Weekly Juice, click on reviews, and let us know what you think. Thanks so much and see you next week.